Player 1. Player 2. We are two best friends who happen to be psychic mediums.
We do readings, we teach, we mentor, and we love to laugh.
Yeah, and you know what? We love to cry too, because we're heartstring pulling leather truckers.
Oh, warning, this is rated E for explicit, so if you don't like the word fuck, you should probably turn your ass around.
Turn it around. Don't look back, run. But if you're sticking around, it's time for another episode of I'm a Medium.
Ask me how.
Dana Willey.
Matthew Tao, are you ready for another episode of I'm a Medium? Ask me how.
Yes, I am. Girl, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. I'm always ready.
Those are words to live by. And I think the more that we can just stay ready so we don't have to get ready.
It's the little simplicities of life. If you're ready for the podcast, you can always push play. Boop.
I think everybody took that saying that way.
Yeah. I don't think they did, but that's okay. Can you believe we're on episode 21?
I just had to think for a second. No, I can't believe that. I can't
crazy.
believe that.
It's a wild ride.
It's a wild ride. And we actually, it was a big milestone. 20 was a huge milestone. We hit some other milestones. And can we just stop for a second and just say thank you? Thank you to everybody who's watching and listening to us on this podcast. Like, you don't know how much it means to us when you show up in our comments and say how much you love the podcast. All those wonderful people that have been like leaving reviews on Spotify, like clicking the 5-star, and like on Apple and like leaving reviews. Like, I can't tell you guys enough how much it means to Matt and I that you guys do that for us. Like, it really means a lot.
It does. It's our little dog and pony show that just shows up and it's doing its thing. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for everybody that is just supporting and loving us. But what I really wanted to know is, out of 20 episodes, go in our comment section, 20 episodes in, let us know which one was your favorite. Like, I want to know which episode really impacted you the most. What changed your life? What's helped you the most? Because we just like to hear that stuff from you guys, because it just helps us with future content, all that fun stuff. But we really kind of care about you guys in such a unique way. Like, I feel like we're all family, and I've given birth to 100,000 little kids, and they just listen to our podcast all day.
How do you walk?
I don't know.
Maybe that's how you stay ready.
That's how I stay ready. But you know what? That's guiding us into our next topic, Dana Willey.
Yes. Speaking of guides. Well, honestly, I know, horrible segue. But I do want to say, like, Matt and I really do pay attention to the questions you guys ask, because I have to say that most of the topics that we cover on this podcast come from either questions that you guys are asking us when we go live, or questions that you post like on the YouTube videos that we post or whatever. And we are really paying attention to what you guys want to know. And one question that is popping up like crazy right now is spirit guides. What are they? How do I contact them? Who do I know? Like, all the spirit guide questions. So we wanted to deep dive into spirit guides today.
Baby, we'll be your guide for your spirit guide presentation, because this episode is brought to you by viewers like you. I'm sorry, Dana. I should never have C4 and go film a podcast.
I saw you drinking it this morning, and I was like, this is the world that we're going to live in today. This is where we live.
This is where we live. But what is a guide, Dana? Let's jump in. Let's jump in with this such fervor of this C4. What is a guide?
So a lot of people wonder, is it a past loved one? Is it my grandpa that is guiding me? And while our loved ones do support us on the other side, our spirit guides are people that kind of agreed to help us before we even incarnated, before we came to Earth. So they are not somebody typically, I never limit the limitless, but typically they are somebody that we never knew on this earth plane. They are somebody that they agreed to guide us before we ever came here.
Yes. I always like to say, this is like the analogy that I play in my head. So I can't always say this, but this is something that I've been thinking about, of being like your main guide's like the main coach of the football team, right? They have a vision. They want everything to go well. You are the football field, first and foremost, of what they're playing on. The rest of your team are like the assistant coaches and everybody else that's like a support team. And then your loved ones are like the water boy and the towel boy. They help, they assist, but they're not main players in your game, but they're important, right? Because even the water boy and the towel boy, they play an integral role in like a football team. They're assisting. They are not taking over and guiding. And I think they have the ability to help support, but I don't think that they actually are main players in your guide team. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Horrible
And I love
analogy.
how you, no, I actually love this analogy because we each have at least one main guide that is with us from the moment we step forward into this earth to the moment we step out. And their job is to guide us through this whole time, right?
Yeah.
But we have other guides that are going to step in and out for different chapters of our life. So we might have a guide that steps forward for us. Maybe it's just our parenting guide. Like, so when you become a parent, maybe they're a guide that just helps you through being a better parent, or maybe maybe you're stepping forward in your development. And so you might have a guide that comes forward that's just your clairvoyant guide. They're there to help you develop your clairvoyance. So there are different parts or different chapters that these certain guides will come in, and then after they do their job, they kind of leave. So on a football field, you have the offensive coordinator, so you have a guide that is just specific to that piece and part of you.
I also think of my guides as like The Office, like the TV show The Office. Like I have a Michael Scott, and then I have a Pam, and I have a bitch guide. That's Angela.
Who's the Dwight? But I love that you said that, though, quite honestly, because when we are talking about this, everybody kind of has this over romanticized view of like, what's my spirit guide's name? And I need to know all of this detail. And they kind of like overly blow up this whole concept of a guide. And they expect to have like all of these answers and who are they and what are they and whatever. You just kind of described a personality. Like each of them has like their own personality, whatever. And I think it's more important when we are starting to delve into who our spirit guides are, rather than like, what's my spirit guide's name? Because that's like a big question we get all the time. Like, how do I find my spirit guide's name? Spirit guides aren't really attached to a name.
No.
That's more of a human construct, and it's more attached to ego. And spirit guides have lived thousands of incarnations, right? Like just they've been there, done that, had many, many names. How could they just have one, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they do have a name they want you to call them. You can ask them. You can be like, what can I call you? And they may give you a name, and that's dope if they do. But you can also be like, I want to call you Star Rose, Sunshine, Mother of the Angel Stars.
That's a mouthful. I'm just going to call him Mr. Papa Giorgio. But you really can't. It's whatever feels right to you. And I think as we work with our guides, I think we just need reference points at the beginning of connecting with our guides. Like that's the only thing that you need, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a sensation, whether it's a color, whether it's an emotion, whether it's
a personality.
Yes.
Right?
Anything.
Whatever it is, just grab onto one thing. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a name. And if for right now, calling it Steve makes you feel good, calling it Dwight, Steve. Calling it Angela, do it, right? But like if their personality reminds you of something or someone, lean into that, because we're building a relationship with your spirit guide. And that's the more important factor. Not so much what do they look like or what is their name, but what do they feel like? What is the feeling they give us? What does it feel like when they are around? What are the synchronicity points? What are the things that kind of happen when we feel their presence around us? And it's like getting to know a brand new friend. We don't
Yeah.
need to expect to know like the ins and outs of what and who they are. And sometimes leaving everything to be a mystery is kind of the purpose of why we're here. You're not meant to know it all.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of struck a chord with me. It's like, I'm the opposite of you. Like, you have full communication with your guides. I don't. And the only reason why I'm just kind of like, and I know that you're always like, but that's their job. But I'm always like, they got enough to deal with me. And I find myself annoying. Like, so I can't imagine being attached to me for 38 years. But this is what they signed up for. They know exactly what to do. But I just trust that they're doing their job. So I typically kind of like leave a lot of space. I think sometimes they get a little kind of like, pay attention. Right? Or if I keep talking about something a lot and I'm not actively taking duty, they will make sure that they're going to be like, oh no, bitch, here. And they'll make things happen. So that way I have to make a choice. Like, I've got to either shit or get off the pot. What is your analogy for that? Shit or something? I know you
It's
said
shit or
something
get off
before.
the pot.
Yeah, shit or get off the pot. But it's like, I've got to make that choice because there's going to be a point where it's going to be made for me. And I think some choices are made for us, but we have free will. And I think a lot of people almost romanticize spirit guides to be like genies. Oh my goodness. Like, if you wish upon a star type situation, they're not there for that. They're not there to grant wishes for you. They can put opportunities in front of you, but they're not here to do the job for you. They're not here to make it easier for you, because your job here is to live your life. They are not here to live your life for you. And I think that also gets very confusing.
We have to remember they're not spirit enforcers or spirit pushers. They're spirit guides. So they're going to be like, see that little road in front of you? See that road? You could take that road. That road is kind of like why you came here, remember? Like, you wanted to do that road. So here's that road for you, you know? But they're not, you know, they're also very forgiving. And whether it's your spirit loved ones or your spirit guides, they understand that you are human and that you are meant to make mistakes. And they have grace for that. They understand that you're not always going to do the things that you're supposed to do. We're here to make mistakes and to grow. And sometimes that's how we learn. That's the best way to learn, right? We're not meant to be perfect. We're here to like try different hats on. And sometimes that's how we get to the final result, is like making the bad or the wrong decision, right? We have to do that to get to the right place. So remember that they're spirit guides. They're not spirit enforcers.
It makes me want to sing a song.
Oh no.
The spirit guide boat soon will be giving you multiple choices. Take one. The guide boat. But it really is true. They're here to give us choices, and they're here to support us on every single choice that we have. But you know what really irritates me? We're gonna take a moment. I think when other mediums, this is something that I always hear. A medium told me that my guide is X, Y, and Z. That just gets to me, because I think that kind of robs people away from that joy of getting to know your guide. I always love a medium that can validate your connection with your guide, but I never like somebody to force, well, your guide is Marilyn Monroe. Evidence? Like asking for a friend. Like, because it's really almost kind of robs that relationship with you building that connection with your guide. And that's the fun of it. That is the huge fun of getting to know your guide. Is like, as you work with them, you unravel more information and more information and more information about them. And it takes a while. It's not like tomorrow you're going to go do this guide and all of a sudden you're going to have Joe Schmo, who was the Whippet master of 1972, step forward and tell you his whole life story. But I think like, you just don't invest what somebody says to you unless you've done the work. I think that's the hard part.
Absolutely. And so pros and cons, right? Because we've had people ask us, like, should I get a reading done to find out who my guides are? And pros of that are if you've already been doing a lot of work to kind of develop your relationship with your guide, and you have somebody validate for you. That can be nice because
It's dope.
you don't think you're crazy, right? Because we always, I think, how many of us think we're crazy as we are opening up and developing abilities like, am I making this all up in my head? It can be nice sometimes to have somebody validate experiences that we're already having.
Yeah.
The con part of that is like, and even if you're already doing all of that, let's say I've developed this beautiful relationship with my guide, and he's a male, and he's a male kind of energy, and he's very strong, and he's given me a name, and he told me that he's here to help me be more courageous in life, and he's helping me discover this part of me. And I go get a spirit guide reading from somebody, and they're saying, your guide is a female, and she's very soft and nurturing, and she wants you to be very submissive. Well, that's counter to everything that is my experience.
Yeah.
Now, two things. I'm not saying that psychic is wrong, but now I'm going to start questioning the relationship that I've already been building with my spirit guide. The second thing is we have more than one spirit guide, right? So there could be a guide out there that helps me do that when it's time for me to do that. And that psychic could very well be pulling that forward. But the spirit guide that I'm actively working with is the one that I'm supposed to be working with right now.
Yeah.
So it can invalidate the work that you're already doing. The other thing is, if you've never been doing any kind of spirit guide work on your own, and you've got somebody saying, you've got this female, she's here to nurture you, blah, 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 blah. And then you start diving into this and you're just never feeling that female energy that she's explaining, blah, 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 blah. Then you feel like you're broken. And it's like a roadblock for you to discovering who your spirit guide and who your spirit team is.
I love that. Yeah. It's keeping people small, and it almost disempowers their experience. And we want to honor somebody's experience with the work that they're doing by themselves. And I think that is beautiful, because it's a different journey for every single person. Every person has a different road. Everyone believes something different. And I just don't want to take that away from somebody of being a medium or doing, I've seen a reading go south where somebody couldn't take the spirit and the person's like, it's your guide. And you're just like, how much of that is that, right? So I think kind of like taking what mediums say about your guides with a grain of salt, unless it can be evidentially backed up by evidence to prove that they are saying what they're saying. Just take it with a grain of salt. Like for entertainment purposes only at that point of just being like, oh, that's cool. Maybe that's a guide I haven't met.
Yeah. Don't just take it for whatever, whatever it is, whether it's a mediumship reading or a psychic reading. If it doesn't hit, you can certainly always write it down, but you can always throw out what doesn't resonate or what you can't validate or what doesn't have evidence behind it. So I can't emphasize this enough, because we always talk about psychic cleanup, Matt and I do. We have to do so much of this when it comes to spirit guide, especially as educators. We have so many people come to us, well, I had so-and-so tell me that this was my guide, but I've never felt anybody like that before. Toss that out. Toss it out. If it doesn't resonate with you, if somebody's told you this is your guide and da-da-da-da-da, and it doesn't resonate for you, toss it out. Start new. Start having and building your own relationship with your spirit team.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, I have a question. So what are like some signs that your guides are near? Like if you're willing to share, of like, how do you know your guides are around you? What signs do they give you to let you know that they're here to support?
So the big one for me, was I'm very clairaudient, and they quite literally talk to me all the time. There was a shift in awareness and understanding that they've been talking to me my whole life. And as I was stepping through into my abilities and kind of like into my development, I had like the shift of understanding like, oh, that wasn't me talking to myself this whole time. It was them talking to me. And the way that I could tell that was it would come out of nowhere. It would be like, it wouldn't be like a normal train of thought. It wouldn't be like, I'm thinking about going to the grocery store. It would be like an inspirational thought that would come through. It would be like, you know, they talk about the muse kind of coming into the artist with an idea. It was always very positive, like reinforcing thoughts. You know how sometimes we can be very hard on ourselves as humans, like you're not very good at this or whatever. It could be like you can do this, and very like, but it would come out of nowhere, and it was like, whoa, wait a second, they've been talking to me this whole time. But it always came with like this extra feeling. Like I would almost get it like we talk about like, where do we feel the power? I feel it in my solar plexus. You feel it in your heart. Yeah. I feel like when they start talking to me, like I feel activated in my solar plexus. Like I feel like something like start to tingle in my solar plexus. And I'm like, okay, they're talking. And it's just through practice. And again, remembering that it's very subtle. One of my guides will actually show me a lot of purple when they're around. One of them feels like very grandfatherly, has a very grandfatherly feel about him. One has a very motherly feel about them. I should mention that I'm very clairsentient, so I feel like the personality of them more. Like I will just kind of feel like the presence of them kind of stepping forward. And I will feel like their personality kind of imprint on me a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's you stepping forward. Okay. So that's kind of how I do it. But I talk to him a lot in the shower. I talk to him a lot in the car.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't really do that with mine. Usually my guides will come in when I'm sitting in the power. So they'll come down and they'll, one specific, like my main guide, when I worked with her a little bit, she came forward as like this aurora borealis, but sideways, and she was purple and shimmery. And then as I started to work with her a little bit more, I could see her silhouette inside that, like as I just started to like ask her to step close. But she's very physical. Like I physically feel her when I know that she's around, and she'll step up behind me when I'm sitting in the power, and she'll run her hand across the back of my neck, and I'm like, ooh, she's here. And then I just know it's just an overwhelming sense of I got you. Like that's all, that's it. And I feel like they work with me more sitting in the power, and I just leave it at that. I have had experiences with two other guides. There's a male that would be a larger male that I see, and he reminds me of the color brown. Like I get a lot of browns and earth with him. So he's probably my grounding guide. I don't know. But I also see myself as a higher self. And this comes through as more of a yellow color. And I believe we ultimately do guide ourselves as well, because I believe in a higher self. I believe that we're not all in our body at one time. I believe that our soul is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you were to take an iceberg and flip it upside down, that's kind of where we are. We're the tip. So I believe that a little bit of ourselves kind of help guide ourselves a little bit more. I don't know. What are your thoughts on like higher selves and guides?
Oh yeah. No, I think that our higher self is definitely looking out for us. Like, yeah, no, I that just made me think a little bit, like wondering if our higher self is maybe even our main guide in a way.
Ooh.
It's just interesting.
Maybe we're all but none. I don't know.
Well, we're all one, right?
Yeah.
And then it also makes me wonder if sometimes we share guides to a certain extent. Like something like, let's say for instance, like you and me, like who we have a business together, who work together, and we have like a common goal. Like, do we have guides that kind of brought us together, or like, I don't know, you know, and I just want to say, like, for a second, Matt and I are doing this podcast purely on our experience. And it's cool because we have different experience with our spirit guides. Like I have a more in-depth, like deep dive, like I sit and talk to him all day long, where Matt doesn't. And I think that it's beautiful that we can kind of come from two different perspectives on this podcast, from two different experience points, right? And I know that there's other practitioners out there that will tell you something different. And I think that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So you should always take what resonates and works for you. But it's interesting, right? Because I think we're all one, right? We all return to the one. We all return to all being one. I don't know. It's interesting. But going back for a second to our last podcast where we talked about boundaries. One thing that I enforce or I try to help with developing people who are new to all of this, or even if you're like, I'm naturally born, but I'm still overwhelmed with spirit, whatever it is, and you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, but you don't know who your spirit guides are, I just say rely on your team and just know that they're there. You don't have to know who your guides are to know that the thing to know is that they're always working for you and they're always on your side doing stuff for you. And it's just saying, hey, I would love some guidance on this. I would love your support on this. I would love this. My spirit team was integral in my development. And they really guide, I to this day, really guide my development. We talk about it all the time as mediums where all of a sudden they just kind of take something away from us for a little bit. Like, I believe they do that on purpose. Like, my spirit team is doing that on purpose to make me a better medium, right? So I lean on my spirit team all the time to be like, if I'm not feeling comfortable with a situation, or if I want to create a waiting room or waiting out or working hours, I don't be like, I'm not like, okay, well, Tom's in charge of my mediumship. I just say, spirit team, here's my rules that I would like to enforce around my mediumship. And I just know that they're going to do it. So what I would offer up to all of you psychics, all of you mediums that would like to enforce any kind of boundaries or any kind of anything like that around your practice, just say, spirit team, this is what I want. You don't need to know specifically who everybody is. Just know that they're there supporting you and working with you.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be like first grade where you're standing with the ruler being like, Amanda, present. Bobby, present. You know what I mean? Just know that they're there. I think kind of having trust and reliability, but also not holding them accountable. I think that people often do that as well. Like, if we fall into a shitty situation or something bad happens to us, blaming our guides. Our guides don't live our lives. Okay? Our guides, life happens. They're just here to guide you through it. They're not here to do for you. And I think that's something that I see all the time is like, well, my guide must be out on a cigarette break. No, maybe she is. Okay. They deserve breaks too. But kind of understanding that, like, it's not their fault because you didn't make the choice or something shitty really happened, because something shitty really happened. It's not their fault. And I think kind of demystifying that romanticizing Stephanie Meyer situation that we got going on here with a lot of the woo-woo stuff, and I say woo-woo stuff in respect, it's just make it tangible, right? Make it tangible for you. Do it in your own speed, do it at your own pace, but have patience. Like, if you do one meditation to meet your spirit guide and they don't show up, keep doing it. Set time and set a precedence of like, okay, I'm going to be here every Thursday until, we get more information. And then watch out for subtle signs, because even spirit guides don't speak in loud smacks. They're spirit as well. They are going to come through in these soft, subtle little nuggets. It doesn't need to be these loud slappings in the face. Sometimes if you're not listening, they might do that. So yeah, but just take every sign. Like, if you feel like a sense of like warmth and belonging and comfort, that might be your guide. Who knows? I'm not here to determine or negate anybody else's experience, because it's all personal to us. Everything is individual. Yeah. And now I can't stop thinking really quick. I can't stop thinking that our guides that share like this podcast are Romeo and Michelle on the other side.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we should call them that. We should name them that.
Yeah. I'm a medium. Ask me how spirit guides are
Romeo and Michelle.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I love that. I'm glad that you said that. I really want to touch on the fact that they're not genies. That they're not like wish makers. They can help you. They can guide you towards what you want to have happen in your life. But they're not like, I'm going to, I want to win the lottery. Okay, I'm going to make that happen for you. you are here to learn and grow on a soul level. This is my belief. And in my experience, this is why I believe we come to Earth. Mm-hmm. I believe in this pressure cooker in Earth School, we can do some of the most amazing soul growth possible in this pressure cooker called Earth School. And if everything was made easy for us, we wouldn't grow.
No. Right?
So we are meant to have challenges. We are meant to go through difficulties and specific difficulties to grow in the ways that we need to grow as souls. And it's not fair. And bad things happen to good people all the time. But our spirit team is there to guide us through those and to help us have that soul growth the best way possible that we can.
You know what I love about spirit guides, though, being a medium? Everything I've ever asked for, they've given me the opportunity to do with the work that I put into it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, like I said, it's not a magic genie thing where it's like, poof, here you go. But they say, hey, Matt, you want that? Here are the steps that you need to get there.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know about you folks, but me and Dana here at Matt and Dana Incorporated, we like to make spirit wish lists at the beginning of like every quarter or when we feel like we've achieved every goal. And we'll write down like things like, I want to travel. I want to start a podcast. I want to be a working medium. I want to do this. I looked back at everything I asked for in 2022. I got every single thing that I wanted, but it all came with hard work. And the things that are not fulfilled yet are happening in 2023. So it doesn't need to be like an immediate thing. So I'm always like, make a spirit wish list, like almost like what are those boards where you put all of those pictures on it? A vision board?
Vision board. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a vision board. But just write it like a journal of being like, I want to get X, Y, and Z out of life. How can I get there? But they will give you every opportunity and they'll open doors for you. You just need to walk through them and do the work. So that's why I'm always saying they're not genies. They're not genies. They may help you grant that wish, but they aren't going to give you that wish on your own. You, that's like saying you're luckier than everybody else, right? And even going back to the lottery. You want to win the lottery and that's on your list. Don't expect to win if you never play. Right. And it doesn't mean that you're going to win the lottery on the first time. Maybe it's 100th time. But eventually, I believe that everything we ask for comes to us in a certain way of not manifesting, but opportunity that through our spirit guides. I mean, manifesting is its own thing.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's really crazy on the things that you can achieve by just asking your guides to help support you on it. And I'm not saying the lottery. Please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't go play the lottery.
But here's the thing let's sit with that for a second. Why do we want to win the lottery?
So you can have the monies.
So you want the monies, but why do you want the monies?
More monies, more problems. I don't know.
No, but this is peeling the onion back because when you ask for something, why do you want it?
People.
Do you want it so that you can move to a different house? Do you want it so that you can do a different job because you don't like the job you're in? Do you want it so that you have better financial security? Why do you want to win the lottery? So you may ask, I want to win the lottery. But really what you're asking for is to be in a different job. Ooh. So maybe you don't get to win the lottery, but you get a better job with better financial security that provides for you more. And your spirit guides you to that. Because what you really wanted wasn't really to win the lottery. It was really the security that you were after.
Oh, damn, Wiley, drop that mic. You just...
No, I can't drop it because it'll be very noisy.
But that's an amazing example. But it's really kind of looking at the why, right? Peeling your onion back, your awesome blossom at your table.
But your spirit guides know and understand your why, right? So they're not going to let you just win the lottery because they're going to be like, okay, well, we could let him win the lottery, but that doesn't solve at the core what the problem is. He's not happy with his house.
Yeah.
What he really wants is a different house. So we're going to make a pathway, an opportunity for him to get the house he wants.
But here's the deal. You can't gauge that path because it might be the hard path or it might be the easy path. You don't know. You don't know, because that is the gamble of life, right?
Yep.
When one door opens, I believe this. When one door opens, when one door closes, another one opens. Thank you so much, Spirit.
Exactly.
I feel Spirit in this chili.
Thanks, guides. I think Spirit Guide gave you those words.
But they really will truly give you another opportunity. And I don't ever want somebody to feel like they failed something either, because it's like there's lessons to be learned from everything, and kind of sitting back and reflecting of being like, well, that didn't work out, but what can I do better? And what did I learn so I can go forward and be a different person? And I think in those moments, that's where they really truly support you, if you're stopping and thinking about like, and taking self-accountability around what your part in that situation was, right? And I never want to like victim blame. Like, I'm going to say, like, I'm going to use this example so that way we can steer away from some hot topics, because I think some things are out of our control. But like losing your job, right? What led up to that? How did you participate in that? How did you show up every day? Because I can tell you, I've lost a job. I lost a job, but I participated in it. You know what I mean? They facilitated that. So after I lost that job, Spirit was like, stop and reflect. Stop and reflect, or you're going to bring this to the next job and the next job and the next job. And maybe it's just forgiving if you didn't get what you wanted out of that situation, right? Like forgiving your bosses, or forgiving that situation, or understanding things happen. There's a lesson in everything. But I can tell you, when you accept that, you kind of trust Spirit, you trust God, and you trust yourself, and you know that you made the right decision, but you're learning from it. Sky's the limit. Sky is the limit.
Absolutely.
For you, my friends.
We have to remember that there is unconditional love from your guides. I know we said this at the beginning, but they are there to support and guide you. They understand you're going to misstep. They understand you're going to make mistakes. They're not annoyed with you. They're not fed up with you. They're not going to check out and leave you. They have signed on. They understand that you are going to have rough points, that you're not always going to make the decision to go through the open door that they give you. They understand this. They are with you. They understand. They have a greater perspective. They are not bound by ego like we are here on the human plane. So take that pressure off of you. Take that pressure off. They're here to support you. And how beautiful is it that every single person here on earth has a spirit team, guide team with them, supporting them no matter what. That's pretty dope.
That is pretty dope. I just had a better analogy than the football team, Dana. Like an acting set, like an LA set, right? So we're the players, right? We're the actors in the scene. And the director is your main guide, assistant director, then you all the way down to craft services, right? They all play a different role. But in the end of the day, we only see this side of the camera. Right? Because they will give us pointers. They'll produce our life. They will help give us directives like a director would, of like exit stage left. But they're giving us. So yeah, that's a better analogy than the football one. So you're welcome for 2 if you understand sports or acting. So
whichever resonates best for you. So I love that we've kind of talked about the purpose of spirit guides. So I think hopefully everybody understands like the why of spirit guides a little bit, but the how do we get to know our spirit guides, Matt? I think is like the hot button. So we do, there are meditations out there, and we do have our own, and we are going to put that on our YouTube channel of meeting your spirit guide. The big thing that we always want you to focus on is how they make you feel.
Yes.
And is there any symbols that come forward? Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a number, maybe they touch a certain part of you. Like Matt said, it's always like the back of the neck. Spirit guides love using patterns. So what do you see? Because you don't want to just like do the spirit guide meditation once and be like, oh, I got it. I figured it out. Start looking for repetition and patterns. and start building it again, remembering that this is like just meeting a friend for the first time, meeting somebody for the very first time. What are the first things you notice? Then next time you see them, you're going to notice those things again, and then that relationship's going to deepen, and then it's going to deepen a little more, and then it's going to deepen a little bit more.
And you know what's good about them too is you can play with them while you're meditating. And what I mean by that is like getting to know like your own energy and then like playing around. Like if you're a developing medium, inviting them to come step into your energy and then step away when you start to recognize what they feel like, and then stepping in. They're really good. They want to help develop your mediumship abilities because they want you to communicate. But like having them step in and out is a resonant body of just being like, yo, I just need to shift my awareness and understand when something's different and something's the same. Like you can play around with them in so many fun ways. And so make it fun getting to know your guide. Maybe even doing daily affirmations and thanking your guide, or like before you go to sleep. I know some people communicate with them in their sleep of being like, can you please show yourself in a part that I can remember in my sleep? You know, like, or when I wake up, just thanking your guides every single day, because it's a thankless job, Dana Willey. It's a thankless job to hang out with this 38 years and not be thanked.
I think they love every moment of it. I do it for free. Well, actually.
No, you wouldn't. You do it for Taco Bell.
Never once have you bought me Taco Bell. I'm still waiting.
Do you have a Taco Bell guide?
I probably do. Her name is Enchilito. But honestly, start looking for...
But really, look for signs, please. And they're subtle. So like, don't freak out, please. And Dana, is there anything else you'd like to add?
It's just be patient. This is a slow process. Remember, communication from them is soft and subtle and quiet. It's not going to be this loud, bang, huge thing. It just takes time and patience. And they're there to help you and support you, and they are with you. And again, how dope is it that we've all got this amazing team of support that believe in us and are here to help us even when we make mistakes, because that's why we're here. We're here to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dana, I think that wraps it up. I think we've guided this conversation to the very end of this podcast. And I just want to say, I love you so much, Willey, and you are the light of 100,000 spirit guides.
I love you so much, Tao, and I'm really glad you earned your keep today.
Oh, well, living my best life, because this is where we live.
This is where we live. And I think that everybody should do something nice for somebody.
Yeah. And go follow the podcast.
And if you can think of any other taglines that we can put at the end of this thing, please let us know.
Yeah. Well, go listen to the podcast. If you're not following us on YouTube, please go follow us on YouTube. And if you are not part of our Patreon, guess what, guys? We've been sneaking secret episodes into our podcast on Patreon. And so if you want 2 episodes that you've never heard, Patreon. And at the next level, you get a private Q&A with Matt and I once a month. And then the next level after that, you get a tarot reading with Matt and I. 1 question tarot reading. So Patreon, link in the bio. Link in bio. Oh, and there's one more thing I'm going to sneak in here really quick while we're plugging things. Starting in March, we're running some classes. So we have an empath class, we have a psychic class, and we have a mediumship class. So go to mattanddana.com. You can sign up there if you have any interest in developing your abilities, like empath. What does it feel like? Am I empath? Are you an empath? I don't know. Go check it out. So mattanddana.com. All right. Well, that being said, I plugged everything, Dana.
Good job.
I love you all.
Bye.
You're in my heart. Goodbye, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
You know what's really also funny? You know who's the spirit guide for our podcast? Logan from IT.
Yeah. Logan from IT is our spirit guide for the podcast. He guides us.
Yeah.
We don't always listen.
You only see him on the bottom screen saying something really poignant.